Our mission is to foster a sense of worth, self, and health for those impacted by trauma while looking for inspiration to build a whole and fulfilling life. Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever video for the Advent Institute. Just saying that name is so exciting. This video is going to be posted for a podcast as well as a video on YouTube. So whether you're listening or watching, I'm so glad to have you here. This channel was started as an offshoot of my lifestyle channel, Runic Rigel. For 4 years, I've been on that channel on and off, and I decided to finally make an offshoot of that channel so that we could have a specific discussion about mental health here on this channel for those of you that wanted to continue that discussion in depth and learn to heal from trauma. So I want to start this episode by saying, what is the definition of Advent and how did I come up with this term? And the definition of Advent is the arrival of a notable person, thing, or event. So it's kind of about the arrival of self. And so to me, there's just such a sense of overcoming in that word. It does have some religious connotations, but I'm not religious. For me, that is what this is about. And that is how I try to approach my career as a stylist, is how can I help people's true self shine through? And so I just want to talk about the mission statement as well. I want to read that to you. The mission statement here is to foster a sense of self-worth and health for those impacted by trauma while looking for inspiration to build a whole and fulfilling life. And I should emphasize that is fostering a sense of self-worth and health. So those are 3 different words, not self-worth, self-worth, and health. Self and worth are not the same thing. It's something I'm really coming to find out. Developing who you are and knowing how you want to dress, how you want to look, how you want to present yourself to the world, and then feeling a sense of worth about that self are 2 totally different things. And that's a topic that we're definitely going to dig into over the lifespan of this channel, of this podcast. But that's something I want you to keep in the back of your mind, that there is a difference between coming to a sense of self and then having a sense of worth for that self. And that was something I wanted to emphasize right away, that on this channel, in these episodes, we're going to really be exploring how do you be who you feel you need to be? What makes you comfortable? If you don't know who that is, how do you find who that is? Are you just trying on different personalities still? It's okay to be an adult and still be doing that. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how trauma affects that sense of who we are as an individual and how difficult it can be at times to really be an individual and not latch onto others and not become codependent. So that was very important to me, that not only do we develop a sense of worth, but we also develop a sense of self. So I want to talk about the concept behind this channel and about my ideas on treating trauma. I'm going to say a little backstory about me, introduce myself. My name is Ginger Bebop, and a lot of you know me as Runic Rigel, which has also been an alias of mine. And I go by Bebop in my styling life. It's been a long-term nickname. It's something that I'm almost more comfortable with now than my real name. Many people don't even know what my real name is, either online or in person. And so I am a domestic abuse survivor, a child abuse survivor. Many of you know this, but I experienced child abuse for a very long time. It was very severe child abuse. And because of that, I have chronic PTSD. And we're going to go more into the definition of the difference between PTSD, chronic PTSD, and trauma as this goes along. But suffice to say, I suffered a lot of trauma during my most developmental years. And there's really no way for me to not feel the impact of that. That impact is lifelong. And it's taken me many years of my adult life to learn how to understand that trauma during your developmental years alters the way that you proceed in life. There's no way to go back and redo your childhood. There's no way to go back and get loving attachment when you were getting abandonment. And so you have to kind of not just get over it, but learn how to proceed in life as somebody who experienced something different that might have diverted you from the ideal healthy path. And it's okay. We all divert from the ideal healthy path. Some of us more than others. Some of us have different traumas, more severe traumas, more consistent traumas at different parts of our life. And so that's something we're going to talk about. But I want to talk to you about a little bit about how my concept and the concept behind the Advent Institute to help people achieve that sense of self-worth and health that we talked about. And so I call this the cellular concept. There are 3 cells, and you basically take those 3 cells and you just think about them glomming onto you and kind of giving you what you need until you do feel that sense of self and healing and worth and the ability to pursue a fulfilling life. And I think that is what we are looking to achieve, the inspiration to build a whole and fulfilling life. I am never going to tell you that you always have to 100% get over your trauma. That is not what we're here to do. We're here to say, okay, we have trauma, and how do we have that, and how do we pursue a whole, fulfilling, healthy life? How do we find that inspiration? And so I think of the cellular concept as these 3 things that I think that people that are experiencing trauma and difficulties and mental health issues need in their life to kind of glom onto them and get those things into their life. And so the 3 things are health, resources, and community. And so as far as health, you let's break that down further. Mental health. That's something I think everybody could benefit from therapy. So how do you care for your mental health? That's something that can be very difficult to learn because we go to PE in school and we're taught to eat, apples and, get some exercise, but we're not really taught how to take care of our mental health. If anything, overworking is glorified in school, in our communities in general. People compete over, I have less sleep and I did more. We have to learn to take care of our mental health. We have to learn to take care of our physical health. We have to develop a sense of self, because a lot of people that have trauma are out there kind of disassociating, glomming onto other people, becoming codependent, making their problems, making their partner's problems their problems. We have to develop a sense of self. And a lot of that comes from trauma with parents that told people they were selfish if they tried to take care of themselves, or if you're a man, you can't cry. So you really need to develop a sense of self to even want to be able to care about that self. And so that is one of the key components of health, is to develop that sense of self. And it's something I don't think we talk enough about. And this kind of falls into physical health, but also exercise. I do think you can be physically healthy by just getting some walks in and eating a healthy diet. I am by no means a doctor, but I put exercise on there because it has been shown to help people with mental health. And whether that's getting cardio up and feeling those juices flowing, or just going for a walk and being in nature and hearing the birds chirping, or doing a couple crunches, or just, physically moving your body. I think it also ties into that sense of self and feeling that self and coming into the self and having some time with the body, the self. The second cell, and this is in no particular order, they're all equally important, is community. Trauma is very isolating, right? There's a lot of stigma. And one of the big symptoms of trauma is one I just mentioned, which is disassociation, which is kind of that feeling of being outside of the world and kind of seeing things from afar and kind of going, what is this? Not really feeling connected with your own life and those around you, just kind of going through the motions. One of my favorite books is Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut, who had gone through war and trauma, and he really kind of writes this fiction of kind of this person that just feels alien and outside of the world. And it was such a interesting take on trauma that was told through fiction, through storytelling. And I'm a big fan of words and storytelling myself, so that was so interesting. So I feel like to bring people back in, it really helps to have a sense of community, to have somebody that's advocating for you, and to have a support structure. And I understand so deeply what it's like to not have a support structure. My family is located in Texas. I am located in Minnesota. We are 1,600 miles apart. I have family that's chosen family through my friends up here. I have close friends that would be very difficult to ever leave. But it can be hard when you don't have that support structure initially, and you don't feel like there's anybody you can call. And so we're going to educate on like how do you get in there to feel that sense of community? How do you build that? How do you build a sense of community when you're depressed and you don't want to connect? How can you socialize? How can you find a connection through other people? Because I do believe that we are inherently social creatures. I am as introverted as they come, but even if I don't have, interaction for a couple weeks or a couple days, I do start to feel a little kind of out there. And so I think it's very important for community, for people with trauma. The third and one of the most difficult cells, the final cell that we're going to talk about, is resources. I think people that experience trauma need resources. And that one is a much more challenging one to face. Resources being food, shelter, transportation, and education. We, unfortunately, in my opinion, live in a society where we do not have access to free education once we're adults. We do not have access to free healthcare. Public transportation is still costly at times and ineffective in some places. I'm from Houston, Texas, and it is incredibly difficult, if not impossible, to get around by public transportation, and then food. And so it's just making sure your basic needs are met. I think so many times when people are in abusive relationships, people will say, why do you stay? Why do you stay? Why do you stay? And one of the biggest reasons people stay in traumatizing situations is because they don't have the resources. Sometimes people go to a housing shelter and they're still experiencing trauma at that housing shelter. Why stay? Because they have to. They don't have anywhere else to go. Maybe they have children. So by providing resources and treating people with trauma like autonomous individuals, we give them, again, autonomy over their life and a sense of having the basic needs met. And that one's a little more difficult. So that's something we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to help people with trauma, how to help yourself if you're the one experiencing trauma. And we're going to do some affirmation, some positive self-talk. I am not an ASMR artist as of right now, and so I don't plan on that per se, but I do want to do some talks that are motivational, inspirational, maybe something you can just refer to as you're getting your day started so that you don't feel alone and you do maybe feel like you have that sense of community. And I do hope that we will develop a sense of community here on this channel, whether you are just finding me or you came here from Runic Rigel. I hope that you'll that channel is still operational, but again, that's just like a lifestyle channel now. I hope that you'll glean some valuable information from these videos, and you'll take from me my years of mistakes and therapy and medication, so many of the lessons that I've learned from coming from a very, very traumatic background to now where I feel like I'm reaching a point where I'm not just surviving, I'm trying to thrive. And unfortunately, that was even, I think I was so unwittingly married to the idea of like, I'm surviving, I'm building my way up. That was even part of my old slogan at Runic Rigel. And looking back, I'm like, no, we're not surviving. We're not animals, a bunny running through the forest trying not to get eaten by the wolf. We are thriving in our lives. And that's where I really hope to help you either help your family members, your loved ones, or yourself to find a space where you have like a sense of self and then worth for that self, and you feel like you're not just trying to get through. Because with trauma, we experience things like hypervigilance, just being on edge. I'm never gonna not struggle with some of those symptoms, but I've come to a place where I can have the trauma, accept some of the side effects, and still try to elevate my life to the point that I am hopefully thriving and not just getting by. And that's my hope for all of you. And that's my hope for this channel, to be a resource and to, be that resource in the virtual world. And hopefully one day physically, the ideal goal would be to make it so that the Advent Institute is a physical place in the world, helping provide these 3 cells to people that have experienced trauma. I don't like saying victims. I'm not a huge fan of that word, because I genuinely believe that we need people that have experienced trauma. We need them. We need them to, we can't just stigmatize and give up on them. They can become, they're such indomitable people. They're so, they have such strong spirits and such a deep well of empathy, many of them, and we need them as world leaders, in this world, in this country. And so I really have a passion to hopefully elevate and help them on any level possible, especially children and women who, unfortunately, experience this with more frequency. I understand this can be a heavy topic, and you have my word that I'm always going to try to handle this as respectfully and deeply as possible. And it's part of the reason I did want to separate this discussion from Runic Rigel, is because I know some people go there for hair tutorials, discussions on LGBTQ issues, things like that. And so I didn't want to trigger or expose people to this kind of discussion if this is not what they were here for. On the other side of that coin, I know there are people that have found my channel that deeply connect with this discussion. They have stuck around because of this discussion. I appreciate your letters and your pictures and everything from people that have said this channel had really helped them with this discussion. So the discussion continues. It's just going to be on this platform. And we're going to be on a podcast. You should be able to find us pretty quickly here on Spotify, hopefully on iTunes soon, iHeartRadio, as well as video. So you can listen, you can watch, and we're going to be here every week having this discussion on how to really overcome and how to really live a fulfilling life with trauma. And I hope I can give you tips and ways to do that. And if nothing else, I hope I can encourage you every day to know that you are not alone and you are valid. That's it, guys, for the first episode. Thank you so much for being here. My schedule for posting is going to hopefully be Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's what I'm shooting for. I have 3 channels: Runic Rigel, which is lifestyle, this channel, Advent Institute, and another gaming channel called Bebop Wins, where I stream every Thursday and post gaming videos. So you can always go interact with me there if you want something a little more lighthearted, and actually interact with me there on Twitch, and I'm also on Instagram. So all those links will be here on the channel for you to explore if you want to know more about what it is that I do. And you can always check out my website, bebopwins.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Thank you for listening, and go out there, make life beautiful. See you next time.